Swimming in the deep blue ocean amidst the beautiful fish is an experience that someone doesn't forget. The sound of tranquility, the taste of salt water, and the flashing colors of marine life all contribute to the state of peace that is often sought for. While the ocean is often associated with peace, it is also associated with chaos and fear. It is a deep and vast theme capable of causing great distress and helpless accidents. The same blue water in which the colorful Maui reef sits is the same environment that many people are injured and sometimes die. Yet despite it all, in order for someone to experience life's beauty amidst a place of fear, they must have courage to venture into the unknown. People snorkel, scuba dive, and play in this place looking for the peace that the ocean is often known for. Everyone has that place that brings them peace and makes them the happiest person in the world. We will sacrifice everything to be in its midst, and will only find fulfillment when we do so. For me, it has become the ocean. Not only a physical ocean, but an ocean of great loss and darkness that still seems to reflect the light of goodness despite it all. This metaphorical ocean is called medicine. Sometimes life is a storm and we just need help to keep swimming through the waves. Sometimes the storm that people face is sickness and deterioration of life as they know it. Hence, it has become my passion and ultimate adventure to become a physician. I want to be the person who swims with others through the hardest wave that will ever hit, who swims with someone even if they can't be rescued. This requires my courage to step into the unknown and not be afraid of the sacrifices that it entails. Medicine is hard and rigorous, but with my ambitions, I hope to fulfill Christ's ministry quoted through Isaiah to make a pathway through the wilderness and create rivers in the dry wasteland. I don't want to be the typical pre-med student who goes into medicine to gain personal glory and status. If not because of a deep conviction to pursue the hurting and needy people of my community, then what is a worthy motivation through it all? The people who seek help are often in need of much more than just a medical diagnosis. It is only through love that they can be reached. Not the superficial supportiveness that fades when things get difficult, but the kind of love that has the ability to venture into someone's dark and stormy sea and find the beauty of the coral reef hidden beneath. These are the intentions and passions that I have found in my senior capstone. As a future physician and leader in the medical field, it is my purpose to love, it is my honor to serve, and my job to be life-giving to others. I have not always loved the ocean simply because I have not always been willing to venture into it. This place is unknown with many dangers and threats to my personal safety. As I boarded the little boat in which my Maui snorkeling adventure began, I was nervous about the sense of danger. From above, the water seemed dark blue with an ominous sense of unpredictability. As I put on my gear and prepared myself for this new endeavor, it became time to make a decision. A decision to either remain on the boat and let fear overcome, or to plunge into those waters and face the unknown. I chose to jump in, to get into the water in which the bottom could not be seen and swim. What was underneath that water was absolutely breathtaking. It was an entire new world of absolute beauty that surrounded me in happiness and joy. It was this experience that has shaped my ability to confront the unknown. I have always wanted to be a physician for as long as I can remember, but have been discouraged from entering into such a competitive and demanding occupation. With my other desires of being a mother who is devoted to my family, I have weighed the sacrifices of pursuing this occupation. The expenses and intensity of medical school, with its overwhelming loans and often unsuccessful outcomes, have made me reconsider my passion. I have listened to the voice of fear for a long time, but have still felt a strong calling despite. I wanted to make sure my priorities were straight before entering into such a field, and so I began volunteering at Swedish Medical Center. My expectations for an exposure to the medical field were high, but what I've actually learned in the past 3 years have been much different than what I could have ever imagined. I have comforted scared families, sat hours with lonely patients, and even had a music party in the ER. Some of my most honest moments and fondest memories have been made with the people who walk through the doors of our hospital and are searching for something more than just medical healing. I have not learned how to be book smart, learn good study skills, or even gain knowledge from doctors. I have learned how to love. I have finally realized the importance of the distinguished quote from the Bible that says, "Even if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not love, I am nothing." I remember that one of my first tasks when beginning the program was to work in the pediatric unit as a playmate. Here I was, a sophomore girl who was expecting to observe all sorts of medical procedures and was convinced that I would learn the technical aspects of medicine that would give me a foothold to my dreams. But because I loved children and wanted a chance from learning at the front desk, I jumped at the opportunity. As I entered the patient's room, she was unlike any child I'd ever seen. She was very sick, and there was an atmosphere of sorrow that dampened the room. But we began to play. We played for hours and hours with stuffed animals and practically made an entire zoo on her bed. Soon, the atmosphere began to change. It became so much more lively, and I will always remember the joy on her face and my own joy in return. It was through this first experience that I realized that volunteering would be so much more fulfilling than medical exposure alone. I have never seen her again and likely never will, but it was the small moments like these that have encouraged me to become selfless and jump at every opportunity to sit beside someone's bed, listen to their stories, and even add some of my own. This experience and others like it have made me realize that one of the biggest shortcomings of modern medicine is the fear of attachment. It is perceived as dangerous and inhibiting of clear decisions in the hardest circumstances. Many doctors also fear the implications for themselves if things go wrong or unexpected. I have realized that while this fear can be rationally explained, it is arguably one of the most destructive things to experiencing the true beauty of medicine. I am amazed to look back upon myself when I first began this program. I actually believed that in order to be an excellent physician, I would need to assess every situation with calculated yet removed methods to arrive at a clear decision. While this is essential to upholding the weight of my responsibilities, it lacks something else, something just as important. In my interview with pediatric oncologist Dr. Brian Stover, he would say that this fear overlooks the entire essence of what it means to be a physician. Take oncology, the study of cancer, for example, he would say. Oncologists are often perceived as cold-hearted doctors who are distant from their patients because of the prevalent possibilities of death. Dr. Stover was an example of an extremely caring doctor who, when asked about patient attachment, said, "I actually strongly believe in getting attached to your patients and that it helps you to take better care of them." His words couldn't be farther from the truth. As with anything, there must be a balance maintained through selfless love and experience beyond the textbooks. This year, I had the opportunity to become a cuddler in the neonatal intensive care unit. A cuddler is a volunteer who holds, rocks, and cuddles premature or sick babies while their parents are temporarily away. Some parents even live out of state and risk everything for their children to receive excellent care. I had been awaiting an opening in this position for a long time and was anticipating it very much. There was a training session in which we were given many guidelines, but nothing could have prepared me for the true experience itself. On the night of my first shift in the NICU, I was given a newborn baby. For many hours, I held, rocked, and comforted her. Every once in a while, she would look up at me with her big, beautiful eyes, and I would assure her that everything would be all right. The truth is, I had no idea about the situation she was about to be placed in. In fact, I knew nothing more about her than her name. She was a complete stranger to me, yet I got the opportunity to come into a big and empty hospital room and hold her. I will never see this baby again, and likely never will, and nor will I see any other babies in the program. But it left me with something really special. I didn't get to do anything medically to help them, but yet somehow I did. I got to hold them, and that's exactly what they needed most in that moment. That's when I realized that being attached to your patients doesn't make you an incompetent doctor. It makes you a passionate one. And that's exactly what I aspire to be like one day, even if it means playing zoo on the side of a bed or holding a baby for hours. Through showing this kind of selfless love, I have additionally learned that it doesn't matter how different we all are, because people who are vulnerable and hurting need help the most. As a follower of Christ, I knew that we were called to such service, but never fully understood what it meant until now. I have gotten the opportunity to serve people of various religions, ethnicities, ages, and even the homeless. Volunteering every week is not always easy, and it requires a lot of perseverance when things get difficult. An unforgettable experience is rare, but they are worth persevering for. As a team lead, I ask my team members why they volunteer, and many volunteer simply to gain hours for an academic acceleration program at school. I work with a range of teens who began the program without knowing how to show attributes of kindness and warmth, simply because they expect to only be exposed to medical knowledge. And so, I train them in another less known aspect of medicine, the ability to love others, the ability to venture into someone's dark and stormy sea and find the beauty of the coral reef hidden beneath. Medical students at Harvard Medical School are required to take a class like no other academic setting they are accustomed to, but it is arguably one of the most essential classes to creating excellent doctors. These future physicians must sit with each other and discuss the most difficult aspects of patient care. They will then write about their experiences and submit it for the review of their instructor, who has compiled many into the book, The Soul of a Doctor. We follow these third and fourth year medical students as they go beyond the textbooks and experience the most heartbreaking and fulfilling events of their early medical careers while witnessing the true fragility of life itself. For the first time, they practiced the vulnerability and responsibility that they were trained to handle, but nothing could have prepared them for an insight into the human condition and the beauty of its convoluted nature. In these stories, the residents tell of their experiences that, as the introduction says, form a guidebook to humanity and compassion. As I read every unique story, I couldn't help but think of my own as I became more inspired by those of others. In her own excerpt titled, Looking at the World from Far Away, Dr. Amy Gelfand offers special insight into the medical field and its distinctive nature. In her own words, she says that, "It bothers me when I hear classmates saying that medicine is just a job, because the patients are scared and often alone, and I can count on less than one hand the number of jobs where people will let down their guard and permit you to shield them from that fear and loneliness, if even for just 1 minute." Even if I had read this book years ago, perhaps I would have begun to understand the complexity of patient care, but only partially. Working at a level 1 trauma center has not only made me more aware of the reality of this quote, it has given me the opportunity to feel both sides. I have now experienced the side of a scared family member and the side of caregiver. 4 years ago, my father almost lost his life. What started as a CAT scan for persistent headache quickly revealed the brain hemorrhaging that put him in the ICU. My family practically lived at Swedish for a month. I remember going to the hospital every day because of the uncertainty of what the following day would hold. I would walk down the hallway of the ICU towards my father's room and see very sick patients who were on the verge of death. Some were alone and others were surrounded by sorrowful family members getting ready to say goodbye. More families crowded the entrance to the waiting room outside the ICU. For me, this hospital represented fear, the kind of fear that made even the youngest children sit in silence as they awaited the news about a loved one. I could feel it every time I walked into the building. But in some beautiful way, there was also hope, and we could all feel that too. Our family was very fortunate to have the community's love and support through this extremely difficult time. And contrary to the doctor's expectations, and by a complete miracle, my father was healed. But there was something I missed when we left the hospital. The other families were gone, and so were their stories. Even though the atmosphere was filled with sorrow and fear could be felt throughout the waiting room, we all somehow understood each other. I knew how they felt because I felt it too. Even though everyone had a unique story, we all felt similar fears. Even though my friends tried to empathize and comfort me, nothing was more comforting than being amidst other people who understood what I was going through too. Returning back to Swedish Hospital after my father's illness was an experience like my first snorkeling adventure. The hospital had represented a place of darkness, and I had been surrounded by fear in its midst. But I had also gotten a glimpse of its beauty in my time spent there. I wanted to begin the volunteer program because I missed something beautiful that I saw in medicine. I wanted to be a physician long before my father's illness, but it wasn't until I came back to this hospital, my daunting ocean of sorts, that I became truly inspired. I thought that gaining medical exposure would give me great opportunities, but little did I know that my service to others would actually become healing to me too. I am so glad that I decided to come back to my place of fear and darkness because I have become a changed person. It has been almost 3 years since I started working at Swedish Medical Center. I have met one of my best friends in the program who has similar passions as my own. The patients, families, and volunteers have blessed me in many ways. I am able to connect with people who are hurting and fearful because I understand their feelings on a personal level. I tell my story to inspire these people. And sometimes I go back to the ICU waiting room where it all began, but not without being reminded of my own journey first. I began this program and this snorkeling adventure as a driven individual who was simply focused on how my community could appeal to my knowledge and comforts. After serving my community for nearly 3 years, I have changed my perception of medicine and overcome my fear of embracing my calling. I have finally jumped off the deck of the boat and into the abyss below. This act of venture has redefined the purpose of the community around me. It has made it less about how the community can appeal to my own selfish desires and instead about how I can be the fulfilling purpose of being a life-giving vessel to others around me. I have found that the most beautiful moments of my life so far are not the academic accomplishments or varsity athletics. While they are a reflection of my hardworking attitude, they are not a reflection of my true heart. My heart is most fulfilled when I let go of my fear and timidity and embrace the darkness in order to bring light. I was once a child who was safe in my circle of friends and protection. I was once an ignorant individual who believed that the problems of the outside world were far away. Now, I am an individual who has realized that the outside world is really right in front of me, if only I choose to embrace myself in it. This year has been a journey and a test of my perseverance when things are seemingly intimidating. I have grown in so many ways by overcoming my fears and choosing to embrace the places that go beyond my comfort zone. Of course, the vision of medical school with its rigorous and intense nature is frightening to me. But my reasons for going into medicine must be far greater than the fear and adversity against it. My passions have been established, and this will keep me persevering through the most difficult of schooling. After all, I must simply see the journey ahead of me as another ocean, another snorkeling adventure in which I must have the courage to jump in. Thank you.